Let me ask you something. When a man suddenly pulls away, what's the first thought that hits your mind? Did I say something wrong? Is he losing interest? Is there someone else? Here's the truth. Most people won't tell you. Distance doesn't automatically mean disinterest. And if you react the wrong way in this moment, you can turn temporary uncertainty into permanent separation. When a man pulls back, it's often not about you. It's about his internal pressure. Men retreat when they feel overwhelmed, unsure of their position, or subconsciously afraid of losing control in the dynamic. Attraction doesn't disappear overnight, but it can fade quickly if you chase reassurance. This moment is a silent test, not a game, but a psychological checkpoint. How you respond right now determines whether attraction deepens or collapses. Most women unknowingly fail here by trying to fix the distance, sending extra texts, asking for clarity, or over-explaining their feelings. And while it feels loving, it sends one dangerous message: panic. What you're about to learn is how to interpret the distance correctly, regulate your emotions, and respond in a way that naturally pulls him back, without chasing, begging, or pretending you don't care. Stay with me, because the next step decides everything. The worst reaction happens almost automatically, and that's what makes it so dangerous. The moment you sense him pulling away, your mind goes into overdrive. You start replaying conversations, rereading messages, searching for signs you missed, and then, without even realizing it, you act from fear instead of clarity. You text more often. You check in just to see how he's doing. You ask subtle questions that aren't subtle at all. Are we okay? You seem different lately. Did I do something wrong? From your side, it feels reasonable. You're trying to reconnect. You're trying to protect the connection. But from his side, something very different is happening. What he feels is pressure, not because you're wrong for having emotions, but because emotional urgency collapses attraction faster than silence ever could. Here's the part most people never explain. When a man is already pulling back, your pursuit doesn't reassure him. It confirms his need to escape. It tells him that space is being demanded from him instead of chosen. And attraction only grows where there is freedom. Another common reaction is overgiving. You become extra understanding, extra available, extra accommodating. You cancel plans. You lower expectations. You subtly abandon your own rhythm to keep him comfortable. This doesn't make him feel closer. It makes the dynamic feel unbalanced, and imbalance creates guilt, not desire. The final mistake is trying to control the outcome. You push for clarity, labels, timelines, or emotional explanations before he's ready to give them. When someone feels emotionally cornered, their instinct isn't to open up, it's to shut down harder. What pushes him away isn't your feelings. It's the energy of panic, urgency, and self-abandonment. And the more you react from that place, the more distance you create, while thinking you're doing the opposite. When a man distances himself, it's rarely random and almost never impulsive. Psychologically, distance is a coping mechanism, not a verdict on your worth or the relationship. Most men are taught directly or indirectly to process stress internally. Instead of talking things through in real time, they retreat to regain emotional control. Pulling back is how they think, regulate, and recenter themselves. Another key factor is identity pressure. As emotional connection deepens, a man may start to feel the weight of expectations, spoken or unspoken. He senses responsibility, consistency, or the possibility of long-term commitment, and his nervous system interprets that as pressure. Even when he cares, part of him needs space to assess whether he can meet those expectations without losing himself. Distance becomes a pause button. There's also the attraction-autonomy balance. Attraction thrives when a man feels he's choosing the connection freely. If he feels the relationship is moving faster than his internal readiness, his instinct is to create space, not because attraction is gone, but because autonomy feels threatened. This is especially common for men who value independence or have avoidant tendencies. Unresolved internal conflict plays a role too. A man may be dealing with career stress, family issues, emotional confusion, or past relationship wounds. Instead of communicating uncertainty, he withdraws. Silence feels safer than vulnerability. Distance gives him the illusion of control when his inner world feels unstable. Here's the critical insight. Distance is not the same as rejection. It's often a sign of internal processing, not emotional disengagement. The mistake is assuming his withdrawal requires immediate fixing. In reality, the more you understand this psychological pattern, the more power you have to respond calmly, confidently, and in a way that keeps attraction intact rather than pushing it away. The moment you stop chasing is the moment the dynamic begins to shift. Chasing feels productive, but in reality, it's a reaction driven by anxiety. When you chase, you're trying to close an emotional gap by force. What actually works is creating space without emotional withdrawal. There's a big difference. You're not disappearing, punishing, or playing games. You're choosing composure over compulsion. Instead of reaching out for reassurance, redirect that energy back into your own life immediately. Keep your routines intact, show up fully to your plans, protect your time. This sends a powerful, unspoken signal. Your emotional stability doesn't depend on his momentary distance. That stability is magnetic. It creates curiosity because it removes pressure while maintaining presence. Communication, if it happens, should be grounded and minimal. One calm, warm message is enough, something that reflects ease, not urgency. After that, you step back. No follow-ups, no checking timestamps, no decoding tone. Silence isn't passive here, it's intentional. It gives him the psychological space to process without feeling chased or controlled. What you do internally matters just as much as what you do externally. Notice the urge to fix, explain, or overperform. That urge is information. It's showing you where attachment is trying to take over. Instead of acting on it, breathe through it. Regulate yourself. The more you self-soothe, the less you subconsciously ask him to do it for you. This is also the moment to raise your standards quietly. Ask yourself if the connection as it stands is meeting your emotional needs, not in a judgmental way, but in an honest one. When your focus shifts from how do I get him back to is this dynamic aligned with me, your energy changes, and energy is what he feels first. Stopping the chase isn't about strategy, it's about self-respect. And self-respect is what naturally pulls people closer, without effort, without pressure, and without losing yourself in the process. Pulling your energy back is not about becoming cold, distant, or emotionally unavailable. It's about reclaiming the emotional investment you were giving freely before it was fully earned. When your energy is constantly directed outward toward monitoring his behavior, interpreting his silence, or waiting for his response, you unintentionally place him at the center of your emotional world. That's when imbalance begins. When you pull your energy back, you return your focus to yourself without resentment. You stop scanning for signals. You stop assigning meaning to delays. You stop mentally chasing outcomes. This shift is subtle, but it's powerful because it changes the emotional gravity of the connection. Instead of your energy flowing toward him, it stabilizes within you, and that creates contrast. People feel contrast instinctively. Energy withdrawal works because it restores polarity. Attraction requires movement, and when you stop doing all the emotional moving, space opens for him to step forward. Not because you're trying to provoke a reaction, but because the dynamic is no longer lopsided. He's no longer being emotionally carried. He has room to feel his own curiosity, his own desire, his own initiative. There's also a nervous system component. When you pull your energy back, you calm yourself first. A regulated presence feels different. Your messages, if any, become slower, lighter, and less loaded. Your tone shifts from I need to I'm grounded. That emotional steadiness is rare, and it's deeply attractive. Importantly, pulling your energy back doesn't mean suppressing feelings. It means processing them privately instead of outsourcing them to him. You journal instead of text. You move your body instead of refreshing your phone. You talk to trusted friends instead of seeking validation from the person who's uncertain. This protects your dignity while preserving the connection. The real power is this. When your energy comes back to you, you remember your value, and when someone senses that they're no longer your emotional anchor but a choice, you become magnetic again. The question isn't really whether you should text him or stay silent. It's why you want to text him. If the urge is coming from anxiety, confusion, or the need for reassurance, texting in that moment will almost always work against you. It doesn't bring clarity. It transfers emotional pressure. And pressure is exactly what created the distance in the first place. Silence, when chosen consciously, isn't a tactic, it's emotional restraint. It gives both of you space to breathe. It allows his nervous system to settle and gives him room to notice the absence of your constant presence. But silence only works when it's calm, not resentful. If you're staying silent while internally spiraling, the energy hasn't actually shifted. There are moments when texting is appropriate. If you're responding to something he initiated, if there's logistical communication needed, or if you're sending a grounded, warm message that doesn't demand anything in return. One message, clear, kind, and complete. After that, you let go. No follow-ups, no explanations, no emotional add-ons disguised as just checking in. What matters most is the tone beneath the words. A relaxed message keeps the door open without leaning on it. An anxious message leans, and leaning invites resistance. Men are highly responsive to emotional tone, even if they can't articulate it. They feel when a message carries expectation. Staying silent is not about withholding affection to get a reaction. It's about trusting that connection doesn't need constant maintenance to survive. If something is real, it will move forward without being chased. If it fades because you stopped pushing, it was already unstable. This is also a test of self-trust. Can you sit with uncertainty without trying to control it? Can you allow someone the space to choose you freely? When you can, your presence becomes lighter, calmer, and more confident. And that's what people want to come back to. Text only when it feels aligned, not urgent. Silence when you're grounded, not when you're trying to punish. That distinction changes everything. Shifting the focus back to you starts with recognizing how much mental energy has been outsourced. When someone pulls away, it's easy to place your emotional center in their hands, waiting for their response, their clarity, their decision. Reclaiming that focus isn't selfish, it's stabilizing. It's how you regain emotional authority in your own life. Begin by re-establishing your internal rhythm. Eat well, sleep consistently, move your body, and return to routines you may have softened or paused. These aren't distractions, they're anchors. When your body feels grounded, your mind follows. Emotional clarity doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from feeling regulated. Next, shift your inner dialogue. Instead of asking, why is he doing this? Ask, how am I responding to this? This brings power back to where it belongs. You can't control his pace, but you can control your standards, your boundaries, and how you show up. That shift alone reduces anxiety and restores confidence. Reinvest in what makes you feel expansive. Creative outlets, meaningful work, friendships that energize you. These remind you that your life is full, with or without immediate romantic certainty. Attraction grows when someone feels chosen, not needed. When your life feels rich, your energy reflects that richness naturally. It's also important to get honest about your needs. Are you okay with inconsistency? Are you minimizing your desires to maintain connection? Self-focus isn't about detaching emotionally. It's about refusing to abandon yourself emotionally. When you stay connected to your own truth, you stop contorting to fit someone else's uncertainty. The mirror moment comes when you realize this. You don't need him to move closer for you to feel whole. And paradoxically, that's when closeness becomes possible again. When you shift the focus back to you, you stop shrinking, stop waiting, and start showing up grounded, clear, and self-assured. And that changes the entire dynamic. The attraction reset strategy begins the moment you stop trying to restore the old dynamic and allow a new one to form. Attraction doesn't respond to force or repetition. It responds to contrast and choice. When something feels predictable or emotionally over-available, interest dulls. Resetting attraction means interrupting that pattern without creating distance out of spite. First, you change the emotional temperature. You remain warm but no longer intense. You're present but not pressing. This subtle shift signals emotional maturity and self-control. You're no longer reacting to his behavior. You're responding from alignment. That alone alters how he experiences you. Less as emotional responsibility, more as emotional value. Next, you allow space for curiosity to rebuild. Curiosity only exists where there's room to wonder. When you're not constantly explaining yourself, updating him or checking in, he has the opportunity to notice your absence in a new way. Not as loss, but as contrast. The mind fills in gaps, and attraction often lives in those gaps. Your behavior becomes slower and more deliberate. You don't rush replies. You don't overshare. You don't emotionally front-load conversations. This isn't a tactic, it's pacing. Healthy attraction unfolds in rhythm, not urgency. When you regulate the pace, you give him the chance to match it instead of retreat from it. Equally important is internal alignment. If your outer behavior says I'm calm, but your inner world is frantic, the reset won't hold. This is where self-trust comes in. You trust that if he steps forward, it will be genuine. And if he doesn't, you'll still be okay. That certainty is felt, even in silence. The reset isn't about getting him back to who he was. It's about allowing him to re-engage from choice, not pressure. And when attraction is chosen freely, it returns stronger, cleaner, and more stable than before. One of the most confusing parts of emotional distance is not knowing whether it's a test or a sign of fading interest. The truth is, the behavior can look identical on the surface, but the underlying energy is very different. A test is about uncertainty. Loss of interest is about disengagement. Learning to feel the difference matters more than analyzing every action. When a man is testing you, his distance has an edge of awareness. He still watches. He may pull back, but he doesn't disappear. He responds. Even if slowly, he checks in indirectly. Likes, brief messages, subtle reappearances. His energy hasn't gone cold. It's cautious. He's subconsciously asking, will she stay grounded or will she chase? Not to manipulate, but to assess emotional safety and balance. When interest is genuinely fading, the energy is flat. There's no tension, no curiosity, no return movement. Communication becomes minimal and effort drops across the board, not just emotionally, but practically. Plans stop forming. Initiative disappears. In this case, no amount of perfect timing or emotional restraint will reignite what's no longer there. Here's where most people get stuck. They try to behave perfectly to pass the test, or they panic trying to revive interest. Both reactions miss the point. The real assessment isn't about him, it's about you. How do you respond to uncertainty? Do you abandon yourself to keep someone, or do you remain anchored in your standards? The healthiest response works in both scenarios. You stay calm, you don't chase. You remain open but not available on demand. If he's testing, your grounded presence invites him back. If he's losing interest, your self-respect prevents you from chasing something that's already fading. Clarity doesn't come from interrogation. It comes from time and consistency. And when you stop trying to control the outcome, the truth reveals itself without you having to lose your dignity to find it. When he comes back after pulling away, the way you respond determines whether the dynamic returns to imbalance or moves toward a healthier, more magnetic connection. Many women make the mistake of reacting with relief, overexcitement, or instant forgiveness. While these feelings are natural, acting on them impulsively communicates that your emotional stability is dependent on his presence. Exactly the pattern you've been working to shift. The first step is to pause and breathe. Emotional regulation isn't optional here. It's essential. Respond from a place of calm confidence, not anxiety or guilt. Even if you feel hurt, frustrated, or scared, those feelings don't need to spill into your behavior. He doesn't need to see your emotional roller coaster. He needs to see that you're composed, grounded, and aligned with your own standards. Keep your interactions light, warm, and measured. Acknowledge him without over-investing. Simple, confident communication reinforces that you are present by choice, not need. Avoid long explanations or justifications for your previous behavior or feelings. Over-explaining signals insecurity. Brevity signals self-possession. Re-establish boundaries gently but firmly. If he left without communication or clarity, you can accept him back without tolerating patterns that undermine your emotional balance. For example, agree on small ways to maintain consistency, like respecting plans or messages, without micromanaging. This teaches him that being part of your life is a privilege, not a given. It's equally important to maintain your own life outside of him. Continue prioritizing your routines, social connections, and personal growth. Your life should feel full and vibrant, whether he is consistently present or temporarily distant. This reinforces the principle that your emotional world is self-contained, not dependent. Finally, observe his consistency over time. True interest shows up through sustained action, not just words or brief reappearances. Responding with calm confidence, clear boundaries, and self-respect allows you to welcome him back without sacrificing your power, and it sets the stage for a connection rooted in mutual desire and emotional balance. This approach ensures that his return becomes an opportunity for growth, attraction, and alignment, not a repeat of the same cycle. The final mindset shift that changes everything is realizing that your worth and emotional stability do not depend on his presence or attention. So often we attach our value to someone else's behavior, believing that their engagement or distance defines how lovable or desirable we are. This is the root of anxiety, chasing, and emotional imbalance. The moment you internalize that your completeness comes from within, everything about the dynamic changes. Start by fully accepting uncertainty as part of dating and relationships. You cannot control his actions, timeline, or feelings, but you can control your response. This mindset replaces fear with curiosity. Instead of asking, will he come back? You ask, how do I show up as my highest self, regardless of what he does? This subtle shift flips the energy from neediness to magnetism. Next, embrace self-prioritization unapologetically. Your time, energy, and emotional bandwidth are valuable. When you invest them wisely in your growth, goals, and passions, you automatically create contrast. People are naturally drawn to those who stand in their own power, not those who are constantly seeking validation. Finally, trust the process without trying to force outcomes. Attraction, emotional engagement, and connection are results of consistent self-alignment, not manipulation. When you remain grounded, confident, and clear about your standards, the relationship either rises to meet your energy, or it falls away without costing you your dignity. This mindset shift is subtle but radical. You stop chasing, stop over-explaining, and stop shrinking yourself for someone else. You move from reacting out of fear to acting from self-respect, which changes not only how he experiences you, but also how you experience yourself. It's not about control, it's about freedom. And when you embody that freedom fully, the dynamic changes in ways that texts, strategies, or timing alone never could.